This is a special edition of Commodity Week.
Todd Gleason services are made available to WILL by University of Illinois Extension.
Well, welcome to Commodity Week. I am Todd Gleason. This is our Black Sea Grain Market special edition with our panelist today, Andrey Sizov. He's the managing director at Sov Econ. That's S-O-V Econ. It's a leading firm focused on the Black Sea agricultural markets. It has some 27 years of forecasting crops and exports from that area. Andrey, at the time of our conversation on January the 20th, was in Spain. I asked him to tell me a little bit about himself, Sov Econ, and the website that he operates called Sizov.report. That's S-I-Z-O-V .report online.
I run a firm called Sov Econ. We are the oldest research firm covering Black Sea agricultural markets, Russia and Ukraine. Our focus is wheat. We also do cover corn, which is becoming an important crop, especially for Ukraine, and has become a very important and number one export crop for Ukraine. We help funds, traders, millers to trade better, to manage their risk better by shedding light on Russia and Ukraine. The region which importance is growing, but the region which remains untransparent and often brings big surprises for global grain markets, as we just saw in recent 2 days. And let me finish with my marketing story. I encourage you to have a look at our service and our report and get your free trial at Sizov.report, SIZOV.report. Check our website and get your free trial to follow what's happening in the region with wheat and corn.
Can you tell me about your expectations within the wheat market as it relates to the Ukraine-Russia conflict that has been heating up over the last several months?
Yes, we've seen a very strong rally in Chicago wheat in recent 2 days and also in French wheat. And that was mainly driven by the fact that the world market began to pay way more attention to what's happening between Russia and Ukraine, or more broadly and more correctly, I would say, what's happening between Russia and global West. We have been seeing growing tensions between those parties since late November, in fact, when Western media, I think it was Bloomberg, who was the first big media who wrote about that, about the military buildup in Russia, not far from Ukrainian border. And shortly after, we began to warn our clients that sooner or later that market should pay attention to this, because if we see a further escalation, if we see further rise in tensions, sooner or later this could lead to very strong increase in grain prices all over the world, and first of all in wheat prices. Russia is number one wheat exporter, and Ukraine is one of top world wheat exporters. And if we see any conflicts, any open conflicts, that would definitely lead to strong increase in prices. We saw that already in 2014 after Russian troops appeared in Crimea in February 2014. A few weeks later, global wheat prices, Chicago was around 20-25% higher because of that.
Is there a reason that conflict would stop grain flow to the export terminals?
So what we saw just recent 2 days, when there were many headlines, negative headlines about Russia, what's happening with all ruble assets, about the huge sell-off in the Russian stocks market, and everything denominated in rubles, and that's why I think it were funds who started to pay attention, and they were massively short. And I think it was kind of panic short covering, which we saw. In reality, and back to your question, in reality, right now, things haven't changed. Tensions continue to get bigger, but there are no disruptions of grain flows, neither from Russia nor from Ukraine. And I think the chance of any open military conflict remains low, fortunately. I would also say probably there is some indicators that things could settle, come down a little bit. And I guess an important event will be held on January 21st, when the US and Russia will meet again offline in Geneva. So I think things and that short covering could be over. And I hope and think that things will start to come down during next few weeks. However, there is a lot of armed men around and tensions are high, and potentially there is still a chance that something could get out of control and could see an open conflict, and that would cause a spike, even bigger spike in prices, first of all wheat and then also probably corn, because market will be concerned that we could see some disruptions of grain flows out of the region. However, I do believe that probability of such big conflicts that would lead to actual disruption is very, very low. So to put that into perspective, we need something bigger to compare to what happened in 2014 when Russia seized Crimea. I mean, it should be something bigger because during Crimea operation, Crimean story, and after that, the market was concerned indeed. But in reality, we haven't seen any disruptions of wheat and corn flows out of the region. So there was just some temporary delays, but it wasn't a game changer in reality.
Would you expect then the premium that has been built into the market to dissipate quickly or to disappear very quickly?
I think it will disappear, but I doubt that it will happen quickly. So we have those talks this week. Potentially, President Biden yesterday said that he could meet with Putin personally later this year. But it's not like, I seriously doubt that this story would be over next week. So I think this could last for at least a few months, and probably that's a very optimistic estimate. So that premium, which is there definitely currently, it's likely to go down, but not fast. I think it could take weeks at least. Probably if you're owning wheat or you're short wheat, whatever, probably you should watch what will happen this week, all those meetings, all those statements, and a practical indicator, you should watch what Russian troops are doing. If we see Russia really pulling its troops, or at least a substantial share of its troops from its western borders, I think that's definitely the sign that things indeed are coming down. While the troops are there, while we see new drills are being announced, so it implies that that premium should stay.
I'd like to switch topics just a little bit and plumb some of your knowledge of the export market as it's related both to Black Sea wheat and the Middle East, and then the routes to China and whether that would be exported from Ukraine out the Black Sea and from Russia and other nations towards China by rail. What do you see happening in that area?
China is a very important buyer of Ukrainian corn. And let me remind your listeners that prior to the previous season, Ukraine has been the biggest supplier of corn to China. It changed last season, but I don't think that for a long time. Ukraine sells all its corn and some other crops to China, not via rail. It's a very long way, but via the Black Sea. Russia also sells some grain, mainly wheat, some soybeans. That's done via rail or trucks, but that's just negligible volume. Ukrainian corn exports to China are pretty big. Last season, they sold around 8 million tons to China out of 30 million tons total imports. This season, Ukraine has way more corn to export because of a record high crop, around 42 million tons. And we see that U.S. corn exports to China are relatively weak. And this is because I guess that China is booking Ukrainian corn quite aggressively, which is kind of below of market radar because no system to report that. They don't have a system similar to US corn sales. But in reality, I won't be surprised that already this season, Ukraine would become number one corn exporter to China, pushing the US to second place.
Interesting. On the world market, how do you see that evolving as it relates to price? At the United States for the safrinha crop out of Brazil, and then what happened? Do you see price beginning to turn lower because of this?
You mean corn price?
Yes.
If we look at grains globally and corn specifically, so we have a few big stories around. So one, we talk about that, but it's more relevant for wheat, but everything is related. Wheat and corn markets, we typically look at them combined. So that story, Russia-West tensions, is one story. Could be over, but not very soon. Another very important story is whole Chinese demand. So probably last season, the biggest story for global grain market and corn market was increase in Chinese demand. So for this season, there is a big question mark over the demand. We see relatively weak soybean inputs. We see relatively weak corn inputs. We see a record high crop in Ukraine, which could be the biggest supply of corn to China this season. And this implies that there is, and also, of course, Brazil and South America. And this implies there is competition in the Chinese corn market is becoming very tough. And that is definitely not good news for the U.S. Corn farmers. Just in previous few weeks, probably, as you know, another big story for corn market specifically was the weather in South America. Argentina has been very dry. Southern Brazil has been very dry. But now things have improved substantially for Argentina, and more rains are in the forecast for Argentina. And for Brazil, yes, there's some damage has been done to the southern corn. But just a reminder, the major part of Brazilian corn and major part of Brazilian corn which is being exported is produced second. It's a second corn, safrinha corn crop. And so far outlook for second corn crop, which is more important, looks okay. So with all that, all those pieces, if we put that all together, good Ukrainian crop, a big question mark over Chinese demand, improving outlook for Southern American corn crop, I think corn prices are likely to be under pressure during next weeks or perhaps a longer period of time.
Will fertilizer be available for Ukrainian and Russian producers?
I think yes, it will be available, and it will be available for all farmers in the world. I think that story, it's a popular question how it will affect prices and how it will affect seeded area for the next crop in northern hemisphere. I think that story with fertilizer prices and fertilizer availability is a bit inflated. We've seen indeed a huge spike in prices, especially during the end of the previous season, of the previous year, sorry, calendar year. Now prices are going down. Farmers still have, some of them bought fertilizer somewhere around mid 2021. Many didn't buy anything during the previous months, and now, and it looks like they did, they made the right decision because now prices are falling down fast. So I think fertilizer, yes, that's that is story that should be watched, but it's not the factor which will substantially change or influence the prices for the new crop. Potentially smaller corn area, potentially bigger soybeans area. In some places, smaller fertilizer application, first of all, in western part of Russia, for example, eastern part of Russia, for example, where yields are low and farmers are not really doing well. They could cut application. But overall, I don't think that fertilizer availability and fertilizer prices are going to be such a big issue as it's being reported now still by media. For example, weather is going to be, that's a traditional factor, but I think it's going to be way important.
Finally, do you have new crop outlook you'd like to share?
Okay, so apart from the topics we talk about, obviously we have in a few months, the market will start to trade, wheat market first of all, start to trade outlook for the new crop. Russia still remains a very important country to watch. Ukraine, so Russia and outlook for Russian wheat crop at this stage is very favorable because of weather. First of all, we saw some decline in seeded area, but it looks like, at least for now, it would be fully offset. That decline in winter wheat area, and Russia's main producer of winter wheat, will be fully offset by very good weather conditions. Crops are in good shape all over the country. The south, that's a major producing and exporting region, they look exceptional. I haven't seen that for many years. Plants look so good. For now, we believe that Russia could increase its wheat production substantially this year. As per Ukraine, that's a slightly different story. Weather conditions were not so favorable. It was too dry during the fall, but they increased. They have a record high winter wheat area, and things have improved during the winter, ample precipitation. And so I would say that weather conditions and crop conditions are close to average. And this is also the case for the EU, France and Germany, two major producers, wheat producers and exporters. Weather conditions, it was a bit dry also, but it's getting better and got better in recent several weeks. And weather conditions are also close to average. So if we look at this region as a whole, Black Sea plus the EU, probably we can say that supply of wheat from the region during the next season could be close or above the current one. Average crop roughly for the EU average crop for Ukraine perhaps higher than average, and at least for now, it looks like Russia can produce a very good crop, because previous year it was a poor crop because of weather, but now weather is pretty favorable. Also, I should add that, for example, some numbers for Russia, we're estimating 81 million tons new crop. It's roughly plus 7 million tons, plus 6 million tons to the crop of the previous crop. But I think that number, the difference and the new crop number could be substantially high, because we've been a bit cautious because of that fertilizer story, and we indeed saw some slow sales of fertilizer to Russian farmers in the second quarter of the previous year. If we see that sales are picking up, and I think there is a good chance that fertilizer sales will pick up shortly, and if we don't see any problems during next 2 months, I think there is a good chance that forecast for Russia at least will be upped substantially.
That was Andrey Sizov. He's the managing director at Sizov. They're a 27-year firm specializing in Black Sea wheat and grain coming from Ukraine and Russia. I spoke with him on Thursday, January the 20th. You can find more from him online at sizov.report. That's SIZOV.report. I'm University of Illinois Extension's Todd Gleason. This has been a special edition of Commodity Week. Find us online at willag.org. That's willag.org.